this new initiative by Dr. Manish and his team, that taking this India's Neighborhood Lecture Series, how important it is for us to understand at this juncture when we are also leading G20 at present. So it's really, I'd like to give you a formal welcome, and not taking much of time of yours, I would request you to please go ahead on India-Bangladesh relations, current contour and the way forward. Thank you so much. Dr. Manish, you can take over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before I hand over the floors to Dr. Yasmin, I would like to give a little background to this initiative that Amity Institute of International Studies has taken up. And it gives me real pleasure that Dr. Yasmin has readily agreed to deliver the first lecture in this series, which we envision as a series where we look at India's neighborhood, but not from the eyes of India, but from the eyes of the neighborhood. And I think that's really important to understand the neighborhood, not from Western eyes or Indian eyes itself, but to understand how the neighborhood thinks of the neighborhood, and also particularly the bilateral relationship between India and many of its neighboring countries. We are here today joined by Dr. Lailafur Yasmin, and she is a professor at the Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh. She has undertaken her studies at the University of Dhaka, Georgia State University, USA, and Macquarie University, Sydney, Australia. She has been a recipient of the US Fulbright, the British Chevening, and the Australian International Postgraduate Research Scholarship. She has done her fellowships on peace and conflict issues in the University of Ulster, Northern Ireland, the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, Beijing, and as an Asian Fellow under the Ford Foundation Fellowship at the Daniel K. Inouye Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies in Hawaii. She was also in the fellowship of the Indo-Pacific Security Studies, and also on Women in Conflict fellowship program offered by Beyond Borders Scotland under the Scottish Government's initiative. Her latest publications are on the Rohingya issue and also the development of international relations in South Asia. Her areas of research include Bangladesh, politics, economy, and foreign policy, South Asian affairs, China's rise, maritime security in the Indo-Pacific region, and women's participation in the UN peacekeeping, among others. So without any further ado, I'd like to request Dr. Yasmin to deliver today's lecture on India-Bangladesh relations, current contours and the way forward. We're really looking forward to it. Dr. Yasmin, you, as agreed, you may speak for around 20 to 25 minutes so that we can have students coming back with questions to you and we can have a fruitful discussion. Thank you. The floor is yours now.
Thank you so much for inviting me in this very prestigious initiative that you have undertaken to understand about India from the eyes of its neighbors. So one of the interesting things that I've done in the past is that how Asian countries view Asia and not to see it through the Western eyes. So this is something which was under the Ford Fellowship, under which I went to China and I studied for, I did my research for about for 9 months in Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. So this project of yours, this initiative of yours reminds me of that. I have to be a little bit mindful of, let me tell you about the time frame, because from 2 p.m. India, that is 2:30 p.m. Bangladesh, I have a Zoom meeting. So I would talk for 20-25 minutes, and then maybe the question answer session would have to be shortened a little bit. Okay, so there are a couple of points that we are talking about here. India's, India-Bangladesh relations from its neighborhood's perspective, and that's first from Bangladesh's perspective. So one thing I would identify that you may have a lot of other, choices or other kind of, considerations for choosing Bangladesh as the first country to talk about this. But I would also see this as a recognition of Bangladesh's changing role in international politics, Bangladesh's Bangladesh's changing role in regional politics, and how Bangladesh is faring overall. And as you know, that a number of scholars from the outside are rather calling Bangladesh as a rising middle power, or even middle power, which I'm afraid is quite difficult for us to completely embrace or to shun. So this is something I think that at first, when Bangladesh deals with any other countries of the world, this is being recognized over and over again, that how Bangladesh has improved in the past 51 years of its existence. Remember when Bangladesh fought its war of independence and became liberated in 16 January 1971. It had very little to start with. Bangladesh had no foreign currency in its reserve, and Bangladesh inherited a very weak infrastructure, most of which were affected during the Liberation War. So there were a number of issues, and remember, Bangladesh had nothing to start from. It had to completely start from the scratch, and therefore in 1976 and 1977, a number of scholars pointed out Bangladesh as a test case for development. That is, if Bangladesh can develop, Bangladesh can successfully survive, then it can be applied to this model can be applied to any other countries, or any other countries of the world can do so as well. In fact, very interestingly, what Bangladesh has been able to achieve in the past 50 years has not been achieved by many countries of the world, because Bangladesh has presented a very different model, something that I saw in, I think it was either the Indian Express or some other newspaper, which wrote about an emerging Bangladesh model. That is how Bangladesh have done it. This is often from 2013 to 2014. During this period of time, a number of other phrases also emerged: Bangladesh surprise, Bangladesh miracle, and a number of ways, because Bangladesh has not followed any traditional model of development. What Bangladesh has done is to take remaining cognizance of its local resources and how it can best use of those local resources. Why am I saying this? Because Bangladesh does not have any mineral resources of significant value, and therefore our resources are our land, our people, our pragmatic leadership, and our people to believe in that changes can be made. One of the shining example of that would be during the COVID period. Bangladesh is one of the very few countries where no one people died out of hunger because of the COVID, because of the lockdown that was carried out throughout the country. So there are a number of ways that Bangladesh has been able to show the world that it can do things even with limited resources. Why? Because it has not blindly followed the Western prescription or model of development. Rather, it has indigenized the process. It has looked at what works better here, whether a Western prescription or a non-Western perspective of development. So this is something our economists are working on. A number of papers are being written, number of researches are being undertaken, through which we can sort of provide that there is a non-Western model of development. One of them would be circular economy, that in Bangladesh we have seen increasingly a circular economic model developing, something that developed in Southeast Asia as well. Countries, especially Vietnam, Cambodia, they have experimented on this, where the self-sufficiency can be achieved much quickly than depending on outside help. So having said that, we can as you can see that a different kind of Bangladesh has emerged that is being noticed by a number of countries. And as you can see, from 2020 till now, we have seen a number of foreign dignitaries and number of foreign policy makers are coming to Bangladesh to learn about Bangladesh's position on the Indo-Pacific, Bangladesh's position on another issue or the other issue. So there is a growing international consensus on Bangladesh's rise, and this rise is Bangladesh's emerging as an agenda setter in international politics. But remember, this agenda setting is limited to issues pertaining to Bangladesh's particular national interest. Bangladesh, and as we can see that in terms of Rohingya issue, in terms of what is happening in this region, Bangladesh has a bold and very pragmatic solution and pragmatic suggestions for the international community. Not to mention that Bangladesh is one of the top troops contributing country in the United Nations peacekeeping operations, which has also created a different kind of image for Bangladesh to the rest of the world. Now let us come to bilateral relations. when we are talking about India and Bangladesh relations, remember, it is very difficult for two neighbors to live together who share the fifth largest land boundary between themselves. This is something we have to accept. This is the fact of geography, because we can change our friends, we can change our partners. We cannot change our neighbor. As simple as that. We have to learn to live with a neighbor. We have to learn to live with the fact that India has its own strategic priorities. Bangladesh has its own strategic priority. Therefore, we need to continuously have dialogue between India and Bangladesh, both at the G2G level and the kind of engagements that we are now going through, that the academia will also have a big responsibility in understanding each other's view and delivering it to the people. Because at the end of the day, as you can see, international relations really talk about a unitary state model, but that does not work in today's world anymore, because we are connected with each other in a manner that is inseparable. That is the idea of complex interdependence that emerged in international relations from the 1970s. Often it is also called or seen in the form of pluralistic international relations, but this is so true now, especially the COVID situation has informed us. So therefore, we need to understand that cooperation is something that we require from our neighbors. Bangladesh and India are not exception to this fact. So when I'm going to talk about a number of issues between the two countries: water sharing issues, trade, boundary related issues such as maritime boundary sharing, as well as land boundary sharing, and a number of other related social and sort of political issues. First of all, water sharing issues. This is, India and Bangladesh, we share together 54 joint river, and we have a joint rivers commission, but we have seen that in many cases, joint rivers commission, they have not met, they have not worked the way they should have. Therefore, there has been a gap there. So with the Ganges water sharing, we know that after a long period of negotiation, in 1996, the 25 years Ganges water sharing treaty was signed, but the time has approached for reviewing of that water sharing treaty. But more than that, what is important now is that about Tista water sharing issue. And here it is important because Tista flows from China, it flows through Northeast India, and it comes to Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is basically it's a delta, is one of the largest deltas and flatland, where there are two rivers, Ganges and Tista. All these rivers confluences through Bengal Delta, and then they sort of goes to the Bay of Bengal. So here we have to see that what are the, more than any technical issues, something that we know that have been cited from different, political, from different sides. But more than that, what we need is political will to resolve this issue. Because Bangladesh, we understand that India believes in bilateralism. Bangladesh also believes in bilateralism as well as multilateralism. Bangladesh will always approach to, countries, for example, international, different committees in Bangladesh which works on water sharing issues. From 2020 onward, they have suggested that if we need, assistance from China, Bangladesh will go to China. If we need assistance from any other countries with regard to Tista, resolving Tista water sharing issue or the development along the coast and along the sides of the Tista River, Bangladesh will go to those countries. So at the preliminary stage, China has given China has given assurance of a certain amount of fund for the development and dredging of Tista River. So this is something we always have to remember, that in bilateral issues that can be resolved peacefully. If these are not resolved, then of course any of either of the parties, that they can go to a third party or a fourth party, as we have seen in the case of maritime boundary sharing issue. When Bangladesh India's bilateral negotiation failed, Bangladesh Bangladesh went to United Nations, Bangladesh went to UNCLOS, and we have an example of that. So it is a matter that has to be either resolved bilaterally, or we will have to go to other parties. So this is something we need to flag from Bangladesh's side, that we of course welcome India to be part of this bilateral negotiation. If it doesn't occur with India, then we have to think about our considerations and what are the solutions available to us. Then in terms of trade, remember, as I said, that it shares a fifth largest land boundary, which is about 4,092 kilometers. I may be 2 or 5 kilometers off here or there. But here, because of sharing of the borders, we have seen that India used to be our largest trading partner by all accounts till 2005. From 2006 onward, China emerged as the largest, and that's including formal and informal trade. China emerged as our largest trading partner. Now, one must have to ask the question: if we share, bilateral, if we share land border, how come China emerged as the largest trading partner? Here, a number of issues that are impediments in the case of India-Bangladesh trade. Often these are not paid enough attention to, but the inclusion of the status of China as Bangladesh's largest trading partner is highlighted in a different manner. So what are the issues is that the visa regime. The visa regime is extremely difficult between Bangladesh and India, which is being eased with China and many other countries with Bangladesh. Even as a sort of when our academics or when other people are applying for visa, although India has its largest visa application center in Dhaka, but we have seen that how this visa has been an issue between the two countries. So in case of doing trade, businessmen would go to the country where visa regime is less rigid than in India. This is one thing often we forget. Number two, China is providing us 99% free sort of access of goods. India is also providing us 100%, but the land borders are marked for doing trade on specific items. That is, not all land borders are open for doing trade of all the goods that can be traded between India and Bangladesh. So that is a huge building. That's a huge block in doing free trade between Bangladesh and India. For example, let me cite about Walton products. Walton is an electronic goods maker in Bangladesh. So there is a huge demand of Walton products in Northeast India. But to send Walton products to Northeast India, we have to go via Kolkata, land border, which actually makes this product, the prices becomes higher than it used to be if there were not, Bangladesh's land borders with Northeast India could provide this particular type of facilities. So there are issues in India-Bangladesh trade, and these issues must be addressed so that bilateralism comes to the fore of discussion. So there are issues between Bangladesh and India in the areas of trade, something that we need to focus on. In terms of maritime boundary, as I've stated, that Bangladesh and India started talking about maritime boundary, determination of maritime boundary from 1974. We know the unfortunate, the gruesome killing of our father of the nation and his almost entire family in 1975, and the political scenario changed in Bangladesh, and therefore India-Bangladesh relations became quite tense. And after that, whenever Bangladesh, after the restoration, even after the restoration of democracy in Bangladesh from 1990s, we have seen that Bangladesh and India tried to sit together and discuss about resolving maritime boundary dispute. But disregarding Bangladesh's claim, India and Myanmar rather signed a treaty on sharing of maritime spaces in the manner which would completely exclude Bangladesh's entrance to the high seas. And therefore, Bangladesh had no other option but to take the case to UNCLOS. And in 2013 and 2014, respectively, with Myanmar and India, Bangladesh won the maritime boundary sort of case. Yeah, and although India has again appealed against these in the to the UNCLOS against Bangladesh's win, but for now Bangladesh has access to high seas. Bangladesh has access to is 200 nautical miles of exclusive economic zone in the Bay of Bengal. So this is something we have to think about, that how we can resolve dispute between the two countries, in peaceful manner, in friendly manner. But this has not happened in the case of maritime boundary dispute as well. In case of land boundary, yes, LBA land boundary agreement, which was passed in 1974 in Bangladesh, Parliament. Back then, it was sent to India, the resolution taken, and there was a cordial atmosphere. But this has remained. This has taken a long time for Bangladesh and India to resolve. And on top of that, what has happened in recent times, the border killing that has happened in the India-Bangladesh border, this has created a huge issue between the two countries, and very recently it was not only the BSF but also Indian citizens have taken up arms against Bangladeshi people, and it has happened in the northeast Indian side of the border. So these are all documented, these are all evidenced issues which are yearly published, the number of deaths that occur in Bangladesh-India land border. So there of course there are a lot of ways that this could be resolved. There is a zero shooting policy that was accepted by Bangladesh and India, but however, when Indian Foreign Minister visited Bangladesh back in March 2020, no, I'm sorry, it was 2021, March 2021, on the eve of celebration of Bangladesh's 50 years of independence, the policy was overturned that I think it was called in a different manner, but the policy of no shooting in the border, this policy was overturned unilaterally by India. So there are a lot of issues that one might argue that when we are talking about India's neighborhood lecture series or in India's neighborhood policy, what are India's actual policies and how they are being reflected. So there is a difference. There's a discord, there's a distance between the policy and its actual implementation. This is what from Bangladesh, a number of scholars have written, that there are principles there, but are they being implemented? So when India talks about neighborhood first, whether it actually works as neighborhood first, then again, how does India define its neighborhood? There is no clear guideline, I believe. It talks about neighborhood policy, it talks about neighborhood first policy, but whether this is a defined policy, because who are the neighbors of India and how this is defined. So there are a number of questions that coming from this part of South Asia, that is India's eastern border, eastern neighbor, Bangladesh, that there are things that can be resolved if there are political goodwill. Despite that, I would I'm not sure how much time I have taken. Despite that, I would argue that you remember Kautilyan dictum, your first natural enemy is your neighbor. This has not worked between India and Bangladesh, with all due respect to Kautilyan dictums, because India and Bangladesh, despite a number of issues still unresolved, still they're having discord, having issues coming from both India and Bangladesh. Despite that, India and Bangladesh have been able to institutionalize their relationship. This is a big step between two neighbors, because when relationship is institutionalized, then there are ways to take it forward. So in a number of issues, for example, in having zero tolerance on terrorism, Bangladesh and India, they work together. This is a very big issue, and one might not be able to see its immediate effect, but the world is not free of terrorists. World is not free of being brainwashed, right? So we need to understand that India and Bangladesh relationship has been institutionalized, and there is a big positive impact of that in coming years. But of course, there are certain issues that Bangladesh would also like to be resolved. For example, Tista water sharing, border killing, and a number of issues. And these are the areas that Bangladesh would like to understand India's policy and its implementation in reality. And therefore, I believe that we can have a free and frank discussion here. Of course, there are, because okay, two other things I forgot. So when we are talking about social and political relations, you would see that India's remittance, Bangladesh is one of the top 5 remittance providing country for India. This is something, this is again evidenced. And Bangladesh is one of the countries which sends the most tourists in India. So there are, economic relations between the two countries, which and also bilateral relations can be benefited from. Remember when during the COVID, when Bangladesh India flights were cancelled and of course the borders were closed, that created a havoc in West Bengal's economy. That's now Bengal's economy. So from Bengal, there were a number of petitions to the central government because our Eid shopping, during 2 big festivals, Eid shoppings are mostly by a number of people are done in West Bengal, that is Bengal. So Bengal's economy, we have to share how much is being contributed by Bangladeshi shoppers. Bangladesh is now, it has the highest per capita income in the entire South Asia. Bangladesh has been able to financially help out countries like Maldives, countries like Sri Lanka. Yes, our economy, of course, given the size, is not as big as that of India, but Bangladesh has also done this. Bangladesh has increasingly turned into from being an aid-dependent country to a trade-dependent country. There has been some qualitative change in Bangladesh's, economy, Bangladesh's politics, how Bangladesh handles its foreign relations. These are some of the things that it's time that India takes into account, and we can build our bilateral relations by looking at these facts, evidence-based issues, and also how we can work between ourselves where a relationship is warm and there are other areas where relationship can grow, bilateral relationship can grow. Thank you. I would take questions now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yasmin. That's, quite a start to the Neighborhood Lecture Series. A very, no holds barred lecture in terms of putting across some issue areas and points from Dhaka's point of view in terms of the neighborhood, and also the, most importantly, I think one of the things that I'm really taken from with your lecture is in terms of the need for India to understand, the changes that are happening, inside Bangladesh, and also in how it reflects in Bangladesh outward orientation, with the outside world. There's so many things, I've already noted down so many things, and there's one particular question that I would like to ask before we end the session, so I'll keep it for that. While I wait for my other colleagues and my students to sort of raise questions, there's one particular question that sort of struck me the moment you said it, which is that you were talking about somewhat of a gap and a lag in India's conception of the neighborhood and definition of the neighborhood. And that takes me to, I would really like to pick your mind on this, in that when Bangladesh itself thinks of its neighborhood, right? And sometimes I think in India, because of the size and the nature of the geography and everything, there's a tendency to look at India's neighbors and think that India is its only neighbor. But you kind of forget that, okay, the neighbors have neighbors which are other than India, right? And that's there. So I would like to sort of start by asking you, as a Bangladeshi IR scholar, right? You travel different parts of the world, so how, if I were to ask, like, how do you conceive Bangladesh neighborhood, and who are Bangladesh neighbors? And is there any rank categorization or prioritization in terms of how Bangladesh thinks of its neighbors? How, all to you. I would like to listen to you on this. Thank you.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, actually. And I also like the way you frame that India often thinks India is its only neighbor. So this is a thing that I learned from you. So yes, actually for Bangladesh we have two geographical land centric point of view of defining neighbors, which is typically how we define our neighbors, right? That which country is beside us, because we think of it from a very Westphalian point of view. So from land centric point of view, from Westphalian point of view, we have India and Myanmar. So India, often in Bangladeshi circle back in 80s and 90s, we scholars used to write that Bangladesh is landlocked, number one, or Bangladesh is India locked, right? Because it's on the three sides. And then because the maritime boundary issue was not yet resolved. And then we have a narrow strip of connection with Myanmar. And with that narrow strip of connection with Myanmar, we already share 3 rivers with Myanmar. So altogether, Bangladesh has 57 rivers that it shares with its 2 neighbors. But after 2014, Bangladesh's definition of neighborhood has also changed, that we do not look at only Westphalian system of defining who is our neighbor. That is not only India and Bangladesh, but Bangladesh as a third neighbor. And this is Bay of Bengal, because Bay of Bengal has provided such an immense opportunity for Bangladesh. So our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we already have a Maritime Affairs Division. So, and Bangladesh is now the chair of IORA. So our Ministry of Foreign Affairs now defines Bangladesh having 3 neighbors: India, Myanmar, and the Bay of Bengal. So this is quite innovative. I must have to say, this is quite innovative. And you can see that how Bangladesh is sort of also creating a new kind of knowledge, that something that has not been, dealt with before. Because we often see a land, entity that would be my neighbor, but my neighbor can be Bay of Bengal, my neighbor can be Indian Ocean, because this has tremendous strategic importance for Bangladesh. And when Bangladesh started to receive its sort of access to unfettered access to the Bay of Bengal, that actually changed Bangladesh's geostrategic significance. And this is something we emphasize, that Bangladesh does not have only 2 neighbors, it has 3 neighbors.
Thank you. I mean, that's an excellent point to take away from here and ponder upon in terms of looking at how your neighbors can have neighbors, and what does that do to your neighborhood foreign policy, right? I would like to request any of my colleagues have any queries that they would like to raise to the speaker. I already see a question in the chat box. Shirish, you have a question? Shirish has been working on border issues.
Yes,
so
sir. Yes,
he's
sir.
the right person to ask you a question.
Thank you so much, sir. First, I definitely congratulate ma'am, that was a nice session actually. And actually the kind of ideas you have offered, it actually had put me into contemplation about so many things actually. As a very as a layman, I was thinking that being Indian, that if Bangladeshi expert, IR expert is asking this thing or saying this thing, that what is the exact definition of neighborhood? Because the kind of literature we have gone through in our whole educational journey, the way we perceive Bangladesh, this is out of question actually. We always think that Bangladesh is our very much good partner, and we cannot think beyond than that actually. And of course, we both cherish that particular relationship. As you have said about land border agreement, but yes, I accept that land border agreement has taken that much time to be translated into reality. But it's still, this is something which we can celebrate, because that is having so many challenges, that enclaves and several things, and it's still that kind of understanding we are having, that we can go from that point, even we can move forward from that point. And we all know that kind of border realities are there, especially in the time of rainy season. India Bangladesh boundary, it's very hard to actually demarcate and feel that where India lies, where Bangladesh lies. So there are some challenges also. One question I'm just asking, I need to have your opinion, ma'am, here, that Bangladesh was the country who mooted the idea for SAARC actually. And yes, right now the condition of SAARC is not that fine, and there are various factors. But it was Bangladesh who started this idea that we need a South Asian regionalism. So we know that kind of Bangladesh who believe in the concept of regionalism, especially South Asian regionalism. At that point of time, even India was not having that kind of understanding that we can create a South Asian regionalism. We were thinking about Asian solidarity and everything, but not about South Asian regionalism, but it was Bangladesh. There's one more concept, that is border management, and we cannot do border management without the inclusion of two stakeholders from India, also from Bangladesh also. As you have mentioned about land border agreement. So I need one opinion on border management. Any kind of initiative Bangladesh is thinking to do border management with India, because of course we are sharing boundaries, long border, and also in Bangladesh is actually a very much first country who has thought about regionalism. So border management is obvious thing. Second, I need to know, ma'am, that from foreign policy perspective, contemporary Bangladesh, how Bangladesh is perceiving India at the priority ladder. Especially we as Indians, we know that Bangladesh is a signatory country for One Belt One Road initiative. As you have also mentioned that we are having that much boundary, but still China is a biggest trade partner. So two things, ma'am, if you can ponder on that. The first thing is border management, and second thing is this land border thing.
Yes. Thank you for two very interesting, thought-provoking questions. Number one is border management. What happens is that, border, as you say, that in South Asia, what we carry forward is the legacy of the British colonialism. So these borders are imposed upon us in a manner, not in a consultative manner, but it was just imposed upon us, and we did not have anything to do with it. We just had to accept this. We know all the history and how this is called, cartographical massacre. The way this region was sort of separated. So unfortunately, we inherited a colonial problem, despite Bangladesh not being a post-colonial country in a sense, because Bangladesh had to fight against a post-colonial country, Pakistan, and had to really earn its liberation, independence after 9 months of violent struggle. And after that, what happened is that this small, we call it Chit Mahal, or this small enclaves, these small enclaves, it was very difficult for both parties to come to an agreement. I absolutely agree with that. And it is also about the people that live there. And it was resolved only in 2015. So it took a long time. But the issue is that while we celebrate that, we also forget another issue, that people have very little idea about where lies the exact border, right? People of this region, they always crossed from one side to the other without having any, official documents. So one of my professors, when I was a student, used to tell me that, used to tell us in the class that, I don't know how to say it in English, sadhus, those religious people who go to Himalayas from different parts of India. So from Bengal part, from Bangladesh part, if you want to go to the Himalayas, the way you could go before, now you cannot just take your stuff and start walking towards Himalaya. Now you need your passport as well. You need a visa, you need a passport. So you see, this religious, this pilgrimage, it is also not possible because we are separated by this Westphalian system of border management, etc. So it is very difficult to make people living in different parts of both India and Bangladesh to understand where lies this artificially created barriers. Therefore, what happened, as far as I know, that in terms of border management, both BSF in India's side and in our side, BGB, Border Guard Bangladesh, they have joint programs, they have joint trainings, they have joint celebrations of events, so that their connection increases, so that cooperation becomes easier. So there are a lot of, even cultural programs like celebration of games, celebration of songs, and all of these that happen between the two parties, so that cooperation becomes possible. However, how do we sort of create an awareness among people about this, that here lies the border? This is a huge problem, and I believe we need to work over there. It's like, from the center, sitting in Dhaka or sitting in Delhi, you cannot understand about the plight of the periphery. You cannot understand what is going on in the minds of the people that are living in the periphery. So we need more center periphery connection, more building of bridging of minds, in fact, in two areas. So it is a huge task, and despite living together for more than 52 years, we're going to be 52 years soon, we have not yet been able to sort of bridge that gap. Number two, on Bangladesh's stance on BRI, okay, Belt and Road Initiative. Bangladesh has been a signatory state. Bangladesh, as here we write, that Bangladesh is one of the few countries in the world which has witnessed growth without enmity, that Bangladesh's door is open for any countries of the world who has positive contribution for the development of Bangladesh. So Bangladesh does not see BRI as an impediment, rather sees itself as an opportunity for creating Bangladesh, for creating a solid development for Bangladesh. So China has so far built, if I'm not mistaken, I think the eighth friendship bridge between Bangladesh and China. This has been inaugurated. This was inaugurated in September, and more bridges, smaller bridges. We're not talking about something big like the Padma Bridge or the other bridges, but smaller bridges which have tremendous economic implication that are being built. And Bangladesh is also the second highest recipient of Chinese ODA and Chinese grants in South Asia. So I believe that, this actually benefits Bangladesh, and therefore Bangladesh has no reason to no reason to shy away from taking Chinese money. And one thing is that you can talk about the debt trap, right? So a lot of people are talking about it, but we know through, even Chatham House and other big, publication houses has published that, debt trap is nothing but just a propaganda. It has no basis. Even Sri Lankan, in Sri Lankan cases, we have seen that there are so many discussions, but it was not the Chinese debt. Then World Bank has released a data which says that in the next 5 to 7 years, developing countries will pay only 10 to 15% of their, will make 10 to 15% of their payment to China. The rest will go to Western financial institutions and some other countries. So you can see how little, debt trap is something which is absolutely a political propaganda. And also, I would request you to check one other fact, that AIIB, okay, Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank, who is the highest recipient of AIIB's grant? Do you know that? It's India. India is the highest recipient of AIIB's, grant and ODA and other sort of loans. So I believe that, it's time that India also needs to look what is happening and how far China is engaged with India before, you are talking about your neighbors getting involved with China. So there are both sides of the coin. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Actually, we very well answered, but just two things that as a neighboring countries, of course, we definitely respect each other's sensibilities. If countries are not respecting each other's sensibilities, so of course we can become a good neighbor, and we should be becoming a good neighbor. That is very much important. And secondly, if you talk about any boundary, any border, actually, so what is happening at the periphery, what is happening at the ground, and you cannot think that what is happening on the border that is actually representing the thinking of that particular policy of that country. So border killing and border skirmishes are very much common. I'm not justifying, but this is very much problem for almost every kind of problem and for every kind of country in the world, actually. So if somebody wants to project that thing as a thinking pattern of that nation, I think that is the wrong relation. We should avoid that, actually.
No, I absolutely agree with that. From Bangladesh, no one is saying that this is something that reflects the Indian mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But you have to also look at check the fact that, from 1947 till 1970, I would say, because in 1971, we are fighting against Pakistan. So till 1970, this is once again, I'm citing a fact that there was not one cases of border killing between East Pakistan and India. So there are certain facts, and border killing does not happen in any parts of the world the way it is happening between India and Bangladesh. So we need to be really very, very serious about this issue, because it is not that India is unilaterally being blamed. Please check, notice my statement. India is not being unilaterally blamed. Neither is Bangladesh being unilaterally being blamed. But the thing is that this is an area that creates a psyche in the minds of the people who are being affected. So, and any killing without justice cannot happen, cannot be accepted between two friendly nations as we are. Therefore, we really need to pay attention to that area. We really need to work on that area, because those people, and that creates a negativity in the minds of people, because it is people being killed without being tried. Even if they are terrorists, even if they are, smugglers, they have to be brought under justice. This is something we all understand. So this is something we really have to pay attention to. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, this discussion can, the nature of the discussion we can continue, but I have a lot of questions here. But I'm just, due to the paucity of time, I'm just trying to sum up the two questions together. One, I think Belt and Road Forum, you have already answered to a large extent, so I will not repeat that question. And there is a question on counterterrorism cooperation and maritime cooperation. The other things, leaving aside the water sharing agreement, I would again pick out one particular question from one of the questions that has come, which is on the border management in terms of cattle trafficking, human illegal immigration, drugs, and other such kind of issues which are being handled at the border. So if you could quickly take those questions.
This is a very good question, actually. You have to think about wherever, most illegal immigrants who use the maritime routes, they are not going to India, they are rather going to other parts of the world. Number one. Number two, when we are talking about illegal immigration, there is a sender and a receiver, right? So receiver is in India, sender is Bangladesh. So it is transnational organized crime and criminal gangs, which has to be taken into account both in India and in Bangladesh. It is not only Bangladesh is sending, India is not receiving. It is not like that. So this is something you have to understand. Cattle trade has reduced to the level that Bangladesh is, because I think I forgot the year that India decided not to do cattle trading with Bangladesh through formal channel, and after that, because it is the Eid al-Azha when we do slaughtering of cattle, and for that we no longer need any importing of cattle, and Bangladesh is self-sufficient in producing and supplying its need of beef and beef related, all these milk and beef related all products. So remember, it was last year that there was a letter came from Indian Association. I forgot the appropriate title, but I have the document with me. Indian Association of Beef Exporters, that they have requested our Ministry of Commerce so that Bangladesh imports meat from India, beef items from India, and we now import sort of a certain grade of meat, certain grade of beef products from Mexico, Brazil, and these kind of countries, because you have to understand that the elites in Bangladesh, they have elevated to a certain level, and they're looking for different kind of supply of products. So cattle trade has almost come to a very low level. Organized crime is not brought into limelight and justice. I can see another question. So we have to attend to transnational organized crime in terms of human trafficking, in terms of other sort of drug trafficking and other issues in both the countries. It is not only Bangladesh that we are talking about. And in terms of terrorism, both, as I said, that is a fantastic area of cooperation that Bangladesh and India has developed, that we are not going to let any terrorists use our respective lands to target against the other. And there has been, and now we have extradition treaty, which we did not have before. Extradition treaty was signed, if I'm not wrong, 2012 and 2013, around that period of time. So in a number of ways, Bangladesh and India has institutionalized their relationship, built a solid foundation. But we have to understand, when we are talking about any type of transnational organized crime, the parties exist in both countries, and therefore the governments have to work together so that this can be confronted. It's not only Bangladesh who is responsible for this, it is not only India who is responsible for this. This is a collective problem, and it has to be dealt collectively, instead of pointing finger that illegal immigrants are going to India. No, illegal immigrants are mostly going to other countries. This is something now, it's once again well documented. Thank you.
So to bring the session to an end, I will just put one particular question. So, Lalifer, if you were to advise the Indian government at this point of time, and if I had the power to put you on a phone call with Prime Minister Modi, what would be the two things that you will tell the Indian government that it should focus on while dealing with Bangladesh?
Extremely difficult question. Okay, because these days, especially after COVID, I've started looking at international relations from a very sociological point of view. See the kind of discussions we are having. I think first we need to do is increasing people-to-people contact. We need to increase exchange of academics, exchange of students, and strengthen bilateral relations. And it has to happen from the college level to university level, so that we understand each other better. And there is a huge lack of understanding between each other, because it has a long-term implication for the both of us, both the countries. So if I was to advise PM Modi, I would request him to come here, incognito, and visit different parts of Bangladesh, and to see and understand what people think about, India. And that would be my strongest advice, that learn about it from the people, go areas incognito and learn about the country.
I like the idea of going incognito.
Yes.
All right. So, everyone present here would agree that this has been one of the most productive sessions we have had in recent times, not only in terms of agreement in terms of the opinions and ideas, but also the diversity in terms of the opinions and ideas, from which new opinions and ideas can come. And I think that's the real purpose of having the neighborhood lecture series, not to agree with each other, but to disagree with each other without being disagreeable with each other, right? So that's the very purpose of this lecture series, and we plan to cover other South Asian countries and also move beyond the South Asian neighborhood conception and see, for example, other countries as well. And at the end of this, we would really try to bring out a report on all the lectures that we will conduct over a period of some months in times to come, and we'll get back to you again for your inputs while preparing the report. And next time when you come to Delhi, you are most welcome to visit our department at Amity University, and we'll be happy to host you. And hope I get to see you soon in person in Dhaka or anywhere else in the world. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Larifer, so much as a friend and as a colleague scholar. And thank you from my department. Thank you from all the students and all the colleagues present here today. Have a good rest of the day. Happy lunch. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Hope to see you in person very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.